So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the next Catributors podcast. This week with our guest, CapnHonour. Do you want to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm CapnHonour. How's everybody?
Yeah,
It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, then
your beard is absolutely putting. I mean, I'm but it just puts the rest of us to shame, really.
Yeah.
I got lazy. That's all I can say, and that's what happened.
And you turned into Saruman.
Exactly. Before COVID, I actually used to sort of shave it here. All this wouldn't be here, and there'd be a little. And I just was like, okay, nope. I'm gonna get lazy. No more styling. This is what happens.
See, I didn't have a beard before COVID.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, mine was not to this extent, anyway. All right.
Well, I guess we can start with the first topic, and there is currently a Discord Q&A for World of Warships about the game visuals and graphics, and there have already been some answers from Wargaming. And I mean, most of them I guess are not that interesting, but the first one obviously is because Wargaming has been asked about the update to the the US destroyer visuals, which we have been waiting for a long time, and they are planned to be coming in summer next year. And there are some pictures, some preliminary pictures in there. So that's
it's definitely it's long overdue. It's one of these things where you compare some of the older models and the newer models, and the differences. I mean, in some ways, it's a good thing that you can see like how far they've come in terms of.
Oh yeah.
Even without the kind of major refresh that World of Tanks had, that they have been working on model quality as they've been going along, and because we're back to the old trope at this point of the graphics department carrying the game.
Yes.
Yeah, they really
that has become a meme at this point.
It absolutely has. But yeah, they are so much crisper, and there's lots of nice detail on that.
Yep.
I mean, speaking of memes, the next question was about when they will make detonations look prettier, because one of the things Wargaming said, a lot of people are upset about detonations being in the game, and Wargaming's answer to this, what if we make them prettier and make them like a big, massive event, right? Unfortunately, they can't do that yet. Department. Because they need some... they need to upgrade the current technology behind the animations, so because they want like turrets flying away and like, you know.
It interestingly says that there's currently just a single visual effect.
Right.
So it doesn't take account of...
I would love to see, this is, so long as we have subs in game, or we can go in the underwater environment, if one of the, to put this on the list, Wargaming, if a ship capsizes, I want to see the turrets slide out, the whole barbette slide out, because they're all held in by gravity. So there you go, wish list.
That would be kind of cool. It took World of Tanks a really long time to have any kind of different effect for when your tank's ammunition cooks off.
Right.
Once they finally did it, it did actually, like, it was... Because previously, if a tank had blown up and it was because of an ammo cook-off, it just looked like the tank blowing up. The only indication you might have had is if it had a really high amount of hit points and then was suddenly destroyed. Well, that's the ammo going up.
Right.
But
it wasn't like a flare-off or anything.
Yeah, but these days, basically, the whole turret blows off and you get this big gout of flame coming up. So something like that for warships would be kind of cool.
And the hood should have the Roman candle effect that was described before she went up.
You probably would have something like that because magazine detonations were fairly catastrophic events.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily an instantaneous thing. I think with at least part of the hood when she her explosion, it was the secondary ammunition cooking off in a slow chain reaction. So there was described this huge tower of flame coming up amidships before she actually detonated.
Well, we are also actually just had the anniversary of the sinking of HMS Byram.
Right.
Which was, again, and it's quite famous and well known because there was actually a cameraman that was filming it on board HMS Valiant at the time. And you just see it sort of sinking a bit, and then there's just this huge explosion as the magazine goes. So.
Yeah, you see the hull peel back. And you also realize all the little dots on it are people.
Yes,
which is
it's kind of
there's nothing graphic about it, but it is just so difficult to watch.
So they haven't given a timeline for when detonations will look pretty, but they are working on it. And a little bit later, there is actually, like mentioned, we wanted that to slide out. There was a question about new sinking animations with underwater that we have now. And they said that they already have some beautiful new sinking animations planned. Don't go into detail.
Well, that'd be very good.
Get turrets sliding out and such like things, then.
They say perhaps the ships will be differently healed, touch the seabed along with a surge of sand and silt. We will share the details and examples of new animations once they're ready. So, looks like it's something they're working on, but no details yet.
Yeah, it'll be a while before we see that. But again, given the amount that they rely on the art department to, for them to be able to go, oh, those problems over there. No, look over here, bright and shiny. Look, that's beautiful. Don't you think that's beautiful? Meanwhile, there's the house is on fire behind them, and artfully rendered by the art department as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird with the detonations because people are like, hey, this is an annoying mechanic, but what if we make it look pretty? You like it then?
Well, I as far as the detonation mechanic, I mean, it's one of those things where I personally, it's frustrating when it happens to you, but it's that whole arcade versus realistic, and it's really funny that wargaming will use at times the argument, it's an arcade game, but then to justify some aspect of subs like homing torpedoes, which the mechanic is completely different than the real homing torpedoes in World War II, they'll go, this is realistic. So it's, for me, detonation, it can be frustrating when I'm on the receiving end of it. Yesterday, I detonated somebody with, I think, 2 torpedoes, and I loved it. But it's like team damage.
Can be fun.
It's like team damage. I personally didn't have a problem with team damage because it sort of taught you, as a destroyer, don't let your torpedoes behind other people, that sort of stuff. And people would abuse it. Wargaming finally addressed that before they just did away with it. But, I know it's an arcade game, but I'm playing it for at least a little bit of realism in there. And so detonation, again, if I'm playing the hood and I detonate, I go, okay, fair enough.
It's one that specific example. There's always that kind of there's usually sort of a two sides thing almost, because there was actually a replay I put up earlier this week where there was a Yoshino player that was repeatedly dropping torps from behind allies, and of course these days it doesn't do any damage,
right?
But it's still distracting and it's annoying. So it's almost they might have done that before potentially, but it might be that the actual removal of team damage has now made that individual much more liable to go around dropping torps from behind allies, because there's not really the same penalty for
it. Yeah. Well, it's either that person is taking advantage of basically bad team play and doing it, because there's always that split second where you start to hear, torpedoes off starboard, and you're like, it's that guy's. And that little bit of time, you're turning your guns, or you're not paying attention to where you're going, and you knots or whatever. It affects the game a lot less than if his torpedoes actually hit you and take you out. But they, when they upped the the penalty for it and sent you to Gulag and co-op, at least there was that to stop it or to penalize the player. And it's either that or it's not necessarily saying it's rewarding bad play, bad tactics, but it's definitely not rewarding good tactics. You know, if you can just spam torps and you don't have to worry about what you're doing. It kind of promotes lazy team play.
It promotes less map awareness in a sense, because you had to watch out for where your allies and where they're going, and now you just don't have to think anymore, just throw them out. But you know, part of me wonders if submarines were one reason for that, because with homing torpedoes, you lose a bit of direct control over them, because they go where the enemy goes. Yeah, and it's like, with homing torpedoes, you could like launch them besides a friendly ship, and then they track the enemy and they go sideways and they ram a friendly ship. It's a lot harder to, even as an ally, to dodge homing torpedoes because you don't even know where they're going. So I'm wondering if that wasn't just, if we want to make homing torpedoes, let's just remove team damage.
Right, and plus, it was also... It started around the time. Oh, sorry. What was the Tier 4 Japanese cruiser up in Tier 10 that had all the multiple? Right. They were testing her out, and God, I loved that ship when I got to test it out. It was just so stupid. It's kind of like driving a car with like a 500 or 600 horsepower engine, and you're just like, a brick should not move like this. This is stupid, but it makes me smile. Same thing with the Kitakami. And I think subs and the at least implied intent of bringing the Kitakami back, because, Kitakami is just going to be, if you have team damage, forget it. Everybody's going to be pink in the game. So I think it's those two, but definitely subs, since they implemented them, were definitely a factor in that. Just, it's gut feeling. I don't have insider information, but yeah, definitely.
They do have an interesting. I found interesting the question about scenery scale.
Ah, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. Because one of the things they point out that is everything is way faster in the game than it is in real life, and that's maybe why people are getting a bit confused, because everything moves around at, was it like literally several thousand times normal, like the actual stated speed? So
right. Well, and it's something you don't notice if you're zoomed out on your ship. It's still kind of, it's less apparent that way. If you're on a tier 2 or tier 3 destroyer and you zoom in on the bow and look forward, you shouldn't hear your engines. They're behind you, and the sound is not catching up with you. It's so readily apparent when you're down on that scale. And of course, there's always been the thing of like, the ship's half the size of Manhattan compared to the villages and stuff. But that's lower down. But yeah, I can see as far as scaling, as far as speeds, yeah, it should be worked on.
They do note there that with older maps, it might be more apparent.
Oh yeah,
the way they've dotted things around the place. So we'll see. We'll see if the newer maps have a slightly more, immersive feeling to them. Yeah. I suppose.
So far, art department getting thrown under the bus, loaded with more, but doing an awesome job. Thank you, art department.
Then next they address the menace of underwater rocks, or like clingy islands. Right?
The invisible underwater rocks.
Yes. I mean, we all know it. You want to hack your island waifu, and your waifu doesn't let you go anymore.
That's right.
They basically just state they want to make the thing look more natural, and obviously address such things as getting stuck there. Which, would be pretty nice if you wouldn't have to fear islands as much anymore.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't have the maps, rote and memorization up here, but I tell you, when I get on certain maps, I go, that island right there, 200 feet out from it, stay the hell away from it because it will just capture you. And that one definitely needs to be addressed because it can be just so god-awfully frustrating. Although the quick fix is to engage autopilot, is my understanding. Then that should get you off of those invisible rocks. Most of the time.
I've heard about this and I mean tried things, but sometimes it just takes a very long time to get unstuck. And if you like lose 2 minutes, that's a long time.
Oh yeah.
Where you are sitting duck and can't maneuver or can't do anything.
Yeah, it's completely unacceptable.
Then the next question has been about why some ship models are updated and others not. Like, why it's not chronologically, why don't they update their oldest ship models first? They basically stated that whenever they make like a clone of an existing ship, then they'll update the old model. So
right.
So if you want your ship model to be updated, you have to hope that Wargaming makes a clone of it.
You hope that the Americans have sold it to someone else.
So basically the answer is we're doing it in a completely haphazard, unorganized fashion.
Well, it's I would say it's they're doing it in a fashion that is, we're out here, those old ships are back here, and if by chance one of these new lines, again, like I said, like the entire, not the entire, but the vast majority of the new light cruiser line that's going to come out is basically, Americans sold these people ships, and we need to fill this void in game as far as our player base. They may want these because they live in these particular countries, and then all of a sudden your older model gets updated. It's whatever's out on the leading edge of what they're doing. If that by happenstance drags in some of the older models, then they'll update it. I kind of get it. It's particularly in the case of wargaming, there's only so many feet you have to stamp out the fires.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah.
They actually then, like, the next questions are literally about the art department. Like, one of the ones selected is the art department well compensated in their salary for their unequal role in carrying this game.
They better be. The art department better be getting the lion's share of the Christmas bonuses this year.
I mean, the answer is that there is no art department. The game visual is the result of several teams. Yeah, but the thing is that it's still even if you don't call it an art department, right? You have graphical designers that work on graphics, right? You don't take a graphical designer and say them, hey, fix the code for the torpedo bug, right? Because that's not what he's working on. So you have dedicated art people, even if you don't call them an art department. It's
in chat, Axe actually says, I think the question of prioritizing the resources in-house. If you spend too much time resource people on updating old models, you don't have enough people to push out new ships. And it's exactly like the new ships drag the old ships up to be updated. It's completely it. Like I said, only so many feet to stamp out so many fires. But yeah, there's an art department. Whether there's like a little corner set of cubicles that has the name tag on it that says art department, that's being pedantic and semantics.
Collectively all the people that
there are people who are purely engaged in the visual presentation of the game, and that's the art department, whether they want to call it that or not.
Yeah, so maybe they just don't give it their own department because they would gain too much power. They want to keep the people low, so they have just small groups, so they don't band together.
I don't think the plan's really working. The art department is the power. They're even like sort of backhandedly admitting it in so many things about the art department. But yeah. It's interesting being an outsider on the corporate culture of wargaming, like the inter-office culture, etc., and these sort of missives and how they come out, and just going, okay, I see the lines you've written, but I also see through them, and I see what you really mean.
Yeah, and I think we've covered the graphics update.
Yeah.
There's a quick one at the end about RTX support, which is...
Oh, boy.
I don't know if that's going to be a particularly high priority because, not everybody has a RTX card.
Can you imagine in port RTX where, as I understand it, the game basically, whether you have it up or not, is rendering all of your ships at the same time that you have in the carousel with RTX?
I think for something like World of Warships, RTX just feels so completely unnecessary as well. I mean, sure, it probably, you could probably make it look quite pretty, but would it be that?
It already looks really great.
Yeah.
There's no need for it. It's just a resource hog.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna see that anytime soon.
Yeah, and it's not necessary. The game looks good. And again, art department knocking it out of the park.
Yeah, they do note at the end that the team working on the console version are looking at adding it to the next gen.
Gotcha.
Console version. So I don't know if that's just because they feel like they can actually take advantage of the hardware easier with the kind of locked-in system of a console, or if it's just going to be a gimmicky. Our game has RTX. Come play our game.
It's probably a little bit more of that.
Yeah.
You can print it on an advertising now with RTX.
There you go. Yep. But they'll have to get the art department to come up with that graphic. And it will look amazing.
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of reflective surfaces where you could use RTX.
Yeah. But given the engine they're using, what they've been doing, I mean, again, RTX isn't necessary in this game.
I would definitely say, yeah, it would be a gimmick at most.
Yeah. It'd be one of those things I'd turn on once or twice and go, oh, okay. Yeah, no, don't need it.
Well, and with this, we can, I guess, move to the balance changes. There are a small number of small balance changes again. For example, the South hit points have been increased by 2,100 hit points this time because people made people made fun of the 2,000.
Oh, poor Zhao.
Well, she's getting there. Give her another year, and
Right. The hit point creep will finally come up. I mean, I still like playing the Zhao, but I'm that ship's masochist. My favorite ships in game to play are the Omaha and the Pensacola. So Zhao, it's just potato.
Isn't Pepsi Cola like decent since the armor rework that came with the IFRG thing back then? I think she got an armor buff back then, right?
I believe she did. I mean, for me, it's like Omaha, any of her variants, the Pensacola, the Indianapolis. For me, I've always gone into whatever game it is and going, what's the worst class or vehicle in this game? Because I'm going to find that. And if I'm in Star Wars, I'm taking the Y-Wing out, and I'm going to go take down TIE interceptors, because it's so fun when you can do that. And then plus, if you're on a ship like the Omaha, the Pensacola, or the Zhao, and you can play it, learn its weaknesses, and make it work, is so satisfying. I had I think the other day, I want to say in the Omaha, I either had a Kraken. I think I had a Kraken or a 6-ship kill. I'll have to go back through WoW stats and check it out. But I know I was playing something, and it was just like, oh, this is so good.
It is one of those, like, if you get in that situation where you're not being focused too heavily and you can keep at the ranges where you can dance around most effectively, the guns are actually, like, it's just got so many of them because it's ringed with guns.
It's
always have something.
Yeah, like the Omaha is a St. Louis with a Citadel that you can actually reach out and you can sneeze at it and it goes off.
Pretty much.
But, like with the Zao, you've got to learn situational awareness on it to make it work. Would it be nice if they do away with some of the power creep that she's dealt with? Because she used to be a really good ship. But now it's just, Yeah, so I'm sure they'll slowly creep her back up to being at least less mediocre than she is now. Fingers crossed.
I also find it interesting that there were no further changes to the Petro. I mean, maybe they need to gather more data for a year, or maybe they feel like the 0.5 second reload change really addressed everything that's wrong with the Petro. I guess we'll figure it out in the next months.
Yeah. There are definitely some welcome changes on this list. I mean, Talon getting accuracy bonus is quite nice.
Yeah.
Fubuki's getting better stealth by 100 meters. It's not a big change, but like they've moved to this policy now, and I've said this previously, of doing small pulls on the balance levers rather than whacking great big ones. Yue Yang's getting a slight buff to its torp damage.
Oh my god, yeah. Slight?
1,000, not even 1,000, it's like 900 more damage from a maximum.
Sneeze and you'll miss it.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest.
A tweak.
That's not the torp damage. As we all know, that's a random number. That's alpha damage divided by 3 plus splash. And we don't obviously know the alpha splash number, so we don't even know what they've changed.
Right.
But it should hurt slightly more. But they haven't they buffed like the young torpedoes for like 3 patches now? Like I think twice or 3 times the reload and now the damage.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, they seem to be leaning heavily into the torps rather than doing anything with the guns, which I think would be most people's preference, is to have it be somewhat more effective as a gunboat again.
Yeah.
I mean, especially the gun synergy is a lot better with the option to take radar, right? And it's like there are so many better radar destroyers at tier 10 right now. So it's not like you have to be careful that you don't make it too strong. So it's a long way from reaching a Smarland or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure we will next year still talk about your young torpedo buffs, because it seems that's the route they've chosen.
Am I reading right? Forrest Sherman?
Yes. It's in testing.
Okay.
There's a bunch of, like most of these are for ships that aren't available yet. So there's a bunch of changes to the Pan-Asian light cruisers as well. Mostly buffs to reload time. Mostly. Some of them are slight nerfs.
Yeah, I can't see just knowing the histories of some of these ships. Forrest Sherman is going to be like the Tiger 57. She's not designed along the same forgive me meta that the World War II ships were designed for. She was she's an anti-submarine warfare destroyer, which, hey, I'm happy for the I'm just losing the stream, so if I suddenly disappear from Discord, that means that Comcast
the stream has shortly stopped, but it's back, but the recording has everything in it, so
there we go. So for Sherman, she's American destroyer, 2 5-inch guns, a lot of now if they bring in ASROC or Hedgehogs for anti-submarine warfare, because the big problem for me anyway with anti-submarine warfare right now is the fact that it's all reactive, it's not proactive, and by that I mean it's either off the side of the ship or off the back. Unless you've got planes, then you can go reach out. But as a destroyer, if I could have ASROC or Hedgehogs that I could throw ahead of me,
I think some of the Swedes do.
Do they?
I think the ones with modelled forward launchers have actually got that capability.
Okay. Hedgehog would still be an amazing thing to put in game, because it's basically a shotgun of slightly less powerful depth charges, and they only explode when they make contact. But it's spray and pray. You throw so many out that you saturate the area with something. Plus, also Fletcher had anti-submarine torpedoes, so that's bordering on bringing in guided missiles. But interesting, they're going to bring her in. I love the ship.
And they changed engine boost to hydro. I'm wondering what kind of hydro Germans get.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
I mean, with only the twin turrets and that 2-second reload, I mean, it's almost going to be more like the Swedes, or something like the Friesland / Groningen. So it'll certainly be different than the rest of the American line.
Yep.
There was the thing of the test ships that most interested me. Well, the Delny is getting a fairly substantial range increase, so we'll see what that's like when it comes out. But that looks like it's shaping up to be just a pure kind of run around gunboat thing. But the Yamagiri, they're replacing the 12-kilometer torps with 8 kilometers. So you're going to have a choice between 8-kilometer torps going at 76 knots or the 20-kilometer torps. So it's kind of taken away the obvious choice for that ship.
Right.
I bet you're going to be seeing people using the 20-kilometer torps a lot more often than the 8-kilometer ones.
Yeah.
I mean, they've made the ship from interesting to questionable in one habit, because, I mean, the thing is, the 12 is the base torps that you want to use, right? And then 8 and 20 are both very situational. You want to use 20 mostly if you're on ocean. And 8 in like, I don't know, very rare situations where you actually have close quarters fights. And 12 is mostly. So, I mean, you still have 20s and 8s, I guess, so at least you're not bound to the 8s and you have some range, but I feel like they've made the ship a lot worse with that.
They're going to have a lot less appeal.
Yeah.
For a lot of people. Just because neither of those torpedo choices particularly fit in with the meta these days.
Yeah.
Especially at tier 10, 8. Running around the 8-kilometer tops is incredibly risky.
Yeah. You're just asking for it.
Well, and then there are some changes to like panations.
It's interesting. A lot of them, I mean, the ranges still don't look great, but they are buffing the ranges a bit. So they're still going to be short-ranged, just not quite as short-ranged as they were before. So things like the tier 10 is going from 13.5 to 14.5 base firing range. Still pretty short for tier 10.
It's improvements by 1,000 paper cuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also find it interesting that basically the compound like the tier 7 was sort of like a flint. And turns out that the flint range in a flint-like ship at tier 7 is not enough range, or at least that's their conclusion. Which begs the question, why is the flint still not buffed in the range?
Yeah.
That's a question that I would like to ask him. So your testing shows that the flint's range is not enough. Who knew?
Now, forgive me for my my ignorance on that line, but does that equivalent tier 7, does it have smoke like the flint?
Yes, they all have smoke.
Yes.
So then there's no argument there, because if it didn't have smoke, but the flint does, the finger they could point as, well, flint has smoke, it can hide in it, it can use that to run away. But if they're both equal, then yeah, flint is sadly lacking in love.
I mean, I think most people would argue it definitely is.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And then further, they seem to have increased the range on the Delny. I mean, I can't tell how effective this thing is, but consider 13.1 is a lot of range, considering that you can mount
destroyer.
You can mount the module and the captain skill, so you can get some pretty scary ranges on that thing.
What are the shell arcs like on that?
No idea.
Soviet, so probably fairly. Okay. I think it's 130 mil guns on that, but someone will correct me if I'm wrong.
So you're not with the extended range, you're not going to suffer sort of the same, fire and go brute that the Americans suffer.
Hopefully
not. Well, I assume no. I assume you're
right.
Similar to like a Khabarovsk or so in shares.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, stay back line and you can take advantage of that range. Oh, there you go. My name was written in water. Just said that they had a ship in game. The Dallin in game.
Okay. Yeah, it'll be in the hands of, I think, only the super testers at the moment. I don't think it's gone into wider testing yet.
I mean, I think they gave it also like 10-kilometer torps. And does it still have like choice between heal and smoke, I think?
Yeah, fair enough.
So it remains to be seen, right? I hope they aren't going overboard, because they obviously the Khabarovsk lagged behind like the French. I hope they aren't going to make this now into a super French.
Yeah.
I think this is, I mean, whatever, like, unless the line comes out and it's horribly OP, I suspect it's going to be a bit of a niche line. I don't think it's going to be super popular.
It'll probably have better numbers than subs, though. Sorry, threw that out there.
Quite possible. Well, I think that mostly covers the balance changes. Then there is another thing that has recently happened. If you encountered that there's a camera freeze bug, and Wargaming has asked for people to submit. Like if that happens to you, you can submit the replay and Wargaming check reports to them. I ran into that yesterday. It's a bit frustrating. Freezing, it doesn't mean like your entire screen freezes. It's basically your camera freezes in position and you can't move your camera anymore. You can still fire your guns.
I've had that for forever.
Oh.
It's not 100%. It's not like in every game or in every replay. But there are points. God, I've had that happen at least a year ago.
See,
and it would be like I would have replays that were absolutely amazing. You know, like I could just go in and I was like, yes, this is, and I would hit that, and I'd be like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. So I think it's been underlying for a while. Obviously, something they've done has picked that up a notch or two, enough that a lot of people are noticing it. But I remember that happening in replays and sometimes in games. I know a lot of times in recent past, but definitely a few patches at least, it would take a few attempts to shift over and click over to somebody else's ship. So, am I doing something wrong? Because I remember back in the day,
even shift.
Right. Yeah, I remember back in the day, at least in replays, where you could click the ship to bounce your camera over to it, and now I'm sort of stuck in this like right click. But
I mean, replays are getting often worse, and there are a lot of bugs in replays themselves. Yeah. But this is more like this is now a thing that happens in the battle, and they want a replay then from when it happens in the battle. So I had this happen basically yesterday. So I was zoomed in, and the Kurfürst was pretty close coming around the corner, and my camera like froze in position. I could no longer zoom out. I could no longer move the camera around. I could technically shoot my guns and so on, but I didn't know where they aimed because I've looked at a piece of water. And I couldn't do anything. You can't change the map. You can't zoom out. You can't switch to a different ship when you're sunk. There's nothing you can do. Your camera just is fixed on at one point. and nothing moves it.
Does tapping out to map view unlock it or no?
No, you can't. It's interesting. If you tap out to map view, a few menu points in your UI change, but the screen looks at the exact same point. There's nothing that changes it.
Gotcha.
So yeah, if somebody encounters this, you can say send Wargaming a replay. They are working on it apparently. Now, I think we've covered mostly the directly in-game issues, but there has been something happening that hasn't been that big, I suppose, although there was a story from I think one website on it, but Wargaming is once again out there with copyright strikes. So basically there is a Russian streamer and YouTuber who had his channel deleted by Wargaming because they filed copyright not claim strike, so his channel actually got deleted. It's no longer there. It does no longer have any videos on it.
Wargaming throwing down on the any press is good press.
It does look like this one's slightly more, and this is just going off what's in the Reddit thread, but this Russian streamer Nomen Est Omen,
pushed a few more buttons than he should have.
It's like people comparing him to Foch, but apparently like not just far. I don't want to say worse than Foch. I think he's just not in the same league in terms of just being.
Bosch had a point. This may
generally
be not so much.
This guy just being generally offensive, abrasive, abusive, towards Wargaming employees. So the one of the Russian speaking guys says,
there you go,
an endless stream of racist slurs.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Homophobia. So Evan, and I think this is the only official response.
Yes,
to it anyway, but there is a reply to that from Evan from Wargaming. And should I just read out the whole thing?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, sure.
Okay, so evening sailors, we value any content dedicated to our game, regardless of whether it contains. Just resize that. I've lost my position. Regardless of whether it contains any criticism or not, so we can disagree with the creator's position, but we will respect it and take it into account as long as it's presented in a relatively civilized way. We also understand that we all get emotional when talking about the game sometimes, so we always look for the essence of the content without taking the emotional delivery personally. Dozens of creators who openly criticize the game and who do so in a rather emotional way are proof to that. And that part's fair. Wargaming's always been like, this is one of the reasons why I think the whole Foch situation was kind of quite shocking at the time, because compared to a lot of other companies, even really big companies like Nintendo, which really just had a complete lockdown on, you are not allowed to be a partner and have any kind of critical anything to say. Wargaming's always been a lot more liberal in that regard, for the most part. Anyway, it goes on. However, there's a line between being passionate and being outright offensive, as well as being criticizing the game and insults, slurs, and other extreme expletives. We have no issue with people disliking the game or its aspects. We are not fine with crossing these lines. Unfortunately, as described by the comment above, this has been the case with the content creator in question. So they're definitely presenting this as a kind of absolute last resort thing.
Right.
The comparison to Sir Foch is not lost on us and is exactly why we always try and resolve conflicts through dialogue first. We tried to address this situation with them several times over a very long period of time, months and years. However, despite these attempts, we kept having to deal with slander, extreme slurs directed at other players, content creators, and company employees, as well as calls to violate our EULA.
Well, that'll do it right there.
Yeah, in the end, we exhausted the means to resolve the issue through mediation. We had to take action using other tools at our disposal, even though we believe such measures should be avoided whenever possible. Looking back at the WoW's community history, through all our ups and downs, our content creators have always been free to speak their minds about the game. There have been many cases where we reached out to some of them regarding the tone of their content, their language or imagery used, and we've always been able to find resolution without escalation. Well, not always.
Yeah.
That's a slight exaggeration, but okay. We do believe this is the way it should be. However, in rare cases like this, when dialogue proves insufficient time and again, we're committed to taking harsh action as applicable to each individual case. So really, I mean, clearly this was not... This is not a particularly defensible content creator.
Right.
Yes.
But the question is still, was that the right course of action? Because the takedown tools on YouTube are there for a very specific purpose. And it's still arguably the case that wargaming has, even with what we might characterize as a good intention, it's still entirely possible that they have wrongly used these systems in place to copyright strike a channel. So this is the real, it's almost weird that this is just kind of mostly blown over and kind of gone under the radar, because it's still kind of a questionable thing that's happened, regardless of how justified wargaming might feel they are.
Right. Well, I think it's a tale of two properties. Wargaming has their property, and as you said, compared to like Nintendo and a lot of other games, they've been fairly, I don't know if we would say agreeable, but they've been fairly open to having a lot of people out there who their living is picking up the baseball bat and, banging on the wargaming pillow and making a career out of it. And again, and then so the other side of the properties is the YouTuber or the content creator. That's your property. If you don't, if you don't manage it quite right and realize that, as unfair as it may seem, you are making your career off of someone else's product who's very protective of it, and you sort of gotta.
This is where we get into the complicated issues of transformative works and fair use, and they basically have gone and shut this guy's channel down with copyright infringement strikes.
Right.
Like the kind of the nasty ones, not just the content ID matches or anything, but the actual outright copyright strikes. If you get enough of those on your YouTube channel, it's gone.
I think the third part of it is the weakness of the YouTube system. You only have certain ways, as the company, to go in and go, hey, this person is making these videos. Take a, you can't pick up the phone and call YouTube, although Wargame probably could, and go, hey, take a look at this guy's thing and tell us what we should do. Is there another option aside from, it's YouTube? It's basically nuke or no nuke.
I mean, in theory, there's like the theory they potential. I mean, Wargaming as a company does have more access to Alphabet than your average YouTuber. So I feel like if this guy is as bad as is being made out, then surely that would have been in violation of YouTube's various community policies.
Yes. You would figure YouTube would step in first.
Yeah, that they would have been able to deal with it that way, instead of saying, well, he used visual elements of the World of Warships game.
Right.
He's here on our sufferance, and we're going to pull the plug on his channel. It's even with the best of intention, like behind what Evan was saying, there's always that, well, we are willing to use the nuclear option still.
Yeah,
even
if it exposes the inherent weaknesses in both YouTube system and wargaming, their options as well. Oh my God, am I defending wargaming?
I mean, I think you might be right. It might be much more on the weakness of the tools from YouTube itself for dealing with this kind of hateful content, and there has been a much wider problem with that. That's especially in the last 4 or 5 years is especially become an issue of these almost kind of like hate speech content creators getting a platform on YouTube, and YouTube really not dealing with that in an adequate way.
Excellent. I'm screen capping what you just said.
I mean, what I want to know is what, unfortunately, answer is missing. They said they had exhausted all resources. I want to know what have they. I mean, they obviously tried talking with him, but did they like report him to YouTube? Did they be like, hey, this violates YouTube policy, take those videos down, please? Did they actually ban him from in-game? Because wargaming is not really all that. Like, let's just say there have been known abusers or trolls or so in-game that have been harassing people for years, and wargaming just doesn't do anything about it. And no matter how many times they get reported, put on YouTube, screenshots shared around, wargaming just ignores this kind of thing in their own game. So I feel it a little bit weird that, you know, they are unwilling to deal with people that use hate speech or so in their own game. But they go to the trouble of copywriting strike and deleting a channel of somebody who does it on YouTube because that could be bad advertising for them. So I really want to see a list of what have they done, and I want them to I want them to polish their own game properly.
Yeah, that is true. They could have just turned his account off and cut off. They could have turned off the tap. Of course, then you end up in the same sort of thing as like people bootlegging art on the internet. You shut down their account, they're just going to go open up another one. So
I think particularly with World Warships, you would stop somebody utilizing their own content, or they might go and make another account or whatever, but you're not going to stop them using other people's replays and continuing to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit, I'm defending wargaming.
Quick, somebody think of something negative to say about wargaming.
Oh, really?
Want to bash them?
Well, yeah.
Right.
Hey, wargaming, the modeling on the gearing sucks. There you go.
Can always throw in the subs are bad. Carriers need balancing.
I know, subs are perfect. I heard they were perfect. And then all of the complaints that people had about them, that people were saying, no, those aren't complaints. Then wargaming actually went in and addressed those points. Oh, that's a whole nother road to hoe.
Well, I mean, we will see what comes out of subs next, you know. They haven't made an update since the latest testing changes, so.
I just think we're going off on a tangent here. I just think that when you have a class of ships that has, last time I checked, which admittedly was a little while ago, has less people playing it than CVs, you have an issue with that class.
I mean,
if subs were super amazing, I'd be playing them. They're not.
I think we are. I can't remember who we had on previously that was talking about this, but we are kind of looking at that they have in mind they want X number of people playing, and so we might end up with subs just getting buffed to silly levels.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
People, so it's just the whole thing just feels like an unhealthy thing to have in the game.
Yeah, it is completely.
I mean, didn't they have though in the first statement about subs with the changes addressed that they had actually too much popularity? Then I think they wanted 4% and they had 8 or so of people playing that.
Yeah, I'm not buying that bridge. Nor am I buying the land they're trying to sell me.
I mean, I don't know. The thing is, obviously, with popularities, everybody got subs try out for free, so everybody tried out subs. I mean, I feel like the numbers aren't really that representative.
Yeah, it's fake. That's a fake popularity. There's a new thing. Obviously, people are going to take subs out just to see what the art department the underwater environment looks like. They're not necessarily playing them because they want to play subs. They're just like, oh wow, hey, look, I'm looking at something different in a game that I've been playing for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And then suddenly the numbers drop off. And that's that. It's not that it's a popular class. It's a little gimmick. It's a visual gimmick. And then everything settles out after a while.
I'm still convinced at this point that the whole thing is just it's adding content for the sake of more content rather than this is going to be interesting and good for the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, me, Omaha player over here. I understand there's going to be people, subs are it for them. They love them, but I guarantee you, like me, voicing that the Omaha is really a good ship, we are in the minority. A vastly, infinitely small minority. But I'll tell you what, I'll take an Omaha over a sub any day.
Well, that's not even a contest.
So, side note, you said that you like to play like bad ships and make them work. Did you try to make that your 7 German destroyer, I think Z31 work?
You know, I only have so many hours in the day. And usually I can only play on the weekends. So I could tell you what, though, challenge accepted.
I think it might be the worst ship in the game.
Yeah, apart from maybe some of the like tier 1s and 2s.
Yeah, excluding tier 1s and 2s. Maybe even excluding tier 3s, because I haven't played like the lower tiers in so long that I couldn't tell you how they perform.
I tell you, I was a bit sad when they did the captain rework, because the Bogger tier at tier 3, with its 130mm guns that you could use AFT and BFT on, it was kind of unfair.
Hey, you know, if clubs are on sale, who's to blame, you know?
Well, I think we've basically covered the Ben story. And there has been something that has happened, I think, yesterday or so. So basically, it appears that Fem didn't have Twitch drops on her channel, even though she tried turning them on and off again and things like that. But there has been a very prompt answer from Wargaming, and it turns out that it doesn't seem to be like on their end. So it might be. I have heard theories that like there was this big Twitch hack, right? Afterwards, they have reset all stream teams and so on, and it could be that things like the Twitch drops have gone wonky since then, and that you might just need to reconnect your account or things like that.
Interesting. I mean, I keep winning containers off of monitoring my own stream, so.
Yeah, that's how it usually works, but it seems like that on her stream, Twitch drops didn't work. And it seems to be a technical issue, so she might have to resolve it with Twitch, but turns out it was not Wargaming being bad, it was just...
Right. And I can see how people could read into that, given the history.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how herself, like, she has publicly spoken about her experiences at Wargaming to some extent, and kind of like her experiences of the internal structure of the company and how things are done, and she's not exactly been the most complimentary. So you can kind of see how she might come to that conclusion, kind of thing.
Right.
But
very quickly. That's almost like an instinct reaction on that one, given everything that's gone on.
I don't feel like she was trying to make drama or anything. I think that was just her having a kind of logically joining up A and B kind of thing. Another explanation.
I mean, Fem wrote me the best rejection letter the first time I went for CC that I've ever read, and I've never let her forget it. But yeah, I can see, given everything that she's gone through with the company, that immediate like, oh, what the, oh.
Yeah.
That also brings me to make another point. I don't think you've mentioned. There is now a dedicated Wargaming employee for Reddit, right? There is Cyberfight is now responsible for basically Reddit, so there should be hopefully more community interaction with Wargaming on Reddit, because they actually have now a person.
That person deserves a raise and some asbestos underwear.
I think that's probably a good idea overall.
Oh yeah.
Having access to Sub-Octavia was nice, but clearly it wasn't good for his blood pressure.
No.
Yeah, I hope his job comes with like a complimentary vodka or so per month.
Oh, yeah.
Vodka rations.
He probably needs it.
Yeah. I was going to say, doesn't that just come out of the taps naturally?
I don't know if you've ever seen the film Whiskey Galore. This is a complete aside, but yeah, there's that great visual gag of when they're hiding all the whiskey and pouring it into like the water tank of one of the houses.
Yes,
as they're being raided, and at the end, one of them turns the tap on and just gets the whiskey out of the water tap. Always makes me laugh.
Did they get the address of that place?
Such a good film.
Yes, it's a film that I should put on the list that I should watch.
Oh definitely. It's a classic.
But by the way, have you seen the film Angel's Share? Also pretty good film.
Oh yeah, I've actually seen that. That's
I haven't seen it. I'll put that on the list.
I needed subtitles, though, I have to admit. I watched it with English subtitles.
Well, the accents can be a little hard to understand, I suppose, if you're not used to it.
Yeah, we have mostly exhausted our topics. There was one other thing, I guess. North America has a new community manager. How is his name pronounced? I'm probably butchering that, so I'm terribly sorry about that.
His face resigned, didn't he? Or he left Kamikacha or something like that? I can't remember his name now. So
yeah, she left and went to Star Citizen.
Oh yes, that was it.
Yes.
Star Citizen, which
Chromatica. Yeah, she left.
Star Citizen, people keep giving them money, so
yeah. Hey, if you can, I tell you what, between the possibility of getting a regular paycheck that might be better than what you were previously making, and also perhaps with a little less drama behind the scenes where you're thrown out in front of the bus by the company that you're representing. More power to Chromatica. I met her at the Hornet event. Fine human being. And as far as the new person coming in, just listen for the sound of bus tires is all I gotta say. Hopefully, Wargaming won't throw them under the bus as much as they have the North America crew.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, the NA doesn't seem like the best community team to have been working for in terms of actually being listened to, and
they almost seem like the ones who were on point when they were the European, Southeast Asia, but this, and again, this could be confirmation bias since I'm here in North America, but it always seemed like the North America community representatives were the ones who drew the most flack when Wargaming would do, and were also the ones who were caught unawares of what Wargaming was done. A little white mouse. I really feel for and again, it's anybody in the community representative, that line, the trenches. I really have never had any animosity towards any of them. It's in the player base has to realize that those folks who are out there, they're drawing a paycheck and they're trying to do their best. And a lot of times, as we've seen, they totally got blindsided by what Wargaming was saying after they had said something. So Chromatica, Godspeed. I wish her the best, and I also wish the new person the best as far as Wargaming North America.
Yeah, community facing anything for any online game is just like probably one of the toughest beats in terms of community management stuff.
True.
I mean, that job basically is you getting hired and then handing bats out to somebody else to beat you up.
Yes. Hello, I'm the messenger. Would you like to shoot me?
Although I have to say, back when he was a contributor, he defended Wargaming more than Wargaming defended himself. He was already back then when Wargaming screwed up, blaming everybody else, and basically claimed that Wargaming was above such things as having failures.
There's a few streamers like that and content creators where I just go,
Yeah, and he was one of those, and he's now the community manager. So,
well, we'll see how that goes.
We'll see how that goes. I mean, at least he's already very familiar with defending everything Wargaming does. So, there's a lot of experience in that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is actually put me in mind of. I mean, we all remember Ektar, right? Ektar of the USS Otago. He was a GM for, I think, World of Warcraft for years and years before he went to work at Wargaming, and these days he's back in Scotland, I think, and actually works for Scottish Power, some power company. So he's basically doing something completely different and seems much happier these days.
Oh,
now
yeah.
he's not being beaten with a Nerf bat on a regular basis.
Oh yeah, and Clyde the monkey. Yeah, I've seen more than I know. This guy's now up in the community manager role, but yeah, there's been several people that I've watched there. I think, given their logic on like what happened with the CCs leaving, I'm one of them, so I'm a little biased. But given some of the logic turns that I've seen, I definitely think they can bake a very good pretzel. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, I mean,
But
at
we'll
least
see how it
pretzels
goes.
are tasty and go well with beer, so
That's right.
there is an upside.
Hey, if they go into business, I'll buy. Because I guarantee you it's a good pretzel.
Next up in the premium store, the Wargaming Pretzel. Now in a loot box coming near you.
Oh, I see what you did there. And Axelin is correct. Everything goes well with beer, and I don't care. I don't care how disgusting, whatever you come up with. No, beer evens it out.
They have beer. I mean, interesting thing, right? What I remember, what somebody from Wargaming once mentioned back when we were still contributors, there seemed to be in Russia a lot more Wargaming branded products. Wasn't there like a sausage or something? I don't remember what it was, but there seemed to be a lot of Wargaming collaborations or so with random items.
I know it's more that, I mean, I haven't encountered this specifically World of Warships, but I've seen things for like World of Tanks where people just going into a supermarket and there's like, promotional World of Tanks stuff on products, and yeah.
And that was another thing, like the credit cards, sausages. Somebody said, yes. That's one of those things that they, I suppose the armory and the premium shop really bring in the money, but there's not a whole lot of actual physical product monetization for the game.
Yeah, and like, for example,
if you had some tie-ins with like the Kobe models or stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. There's a few tie-ins here and there, but I think they're missing out. And again, I'm offering advice to Wargaming. I'm only 2 beers in. Come on.
I mean, we've told them for so many times they should sell torpedo pillows, and they always said that they didn't quite work or whatever. They always had some excuses why not. But I mean, I guess I still have my small one from my contributor time.
Right.
So there is at least then. And it has not yet been eaten by cats.
Okay. Just off the top of my head, if Wargaming went to Trumpeter Models and said, hey, you make all of these wonderful 1/250th, 1/350th, 1/500th scale models, we'd like to slap our label on a few of these. For, a little kickback, we bring in some people who play this game. Why they don't do that, I have no idea. Again, me offering advice to Wargaming.
I mean, that's like with that, or the Kobe, or something like that. You could also have that go both ways. So you could have skins in game that look like your ship is built out of these kind of Lego brick things. Or it looks like
well, I think the one, I've had some custom skins done for the ships I play that were ships my dad was on in World War II. But it's one of those things of like, if you could have a Fletcher that you could buy a skin to turn it into the USS Johnson, or I have a Juno camouflage on my Atlanta. There's so many skins they could be throwing on these ships in game and making money off of that. I really, because they're not going to do a USS Johnson in-game model, like actual ship, and put it in the premium shop, even though people would probably buy it on the name recognition and what she did, or the Juno with the Sullivans, et cetera, et cetera.
Or the William D. Porter.
Oh God, I would love the Willie D. But I think the Willie D, if it came in, D would equal A would equal D. As far as your controls. But yeah, there's all sorts of external and internal monetization, which they just go for loot boxes. There's so many other ways they could be making money off of the game.
Oh yeah, I've for a long time said that I want more visual customization and more stuff they could sell. And I mean, they are really willing to also make like fun camos, like for example the Atlanta Beach camo, which is such an amazing job. Once again, art department.
Oh yeah.
Why isn't there more like that? Right? I've tried suggesting multiple times a beard celt camo for the Germans. I've never gotten an answer.
Yeah.
I want more cat camos, definitely. I'd also take a proper cat captain that actually makes cat noises.
Well, okay, there's that.
I would love an unsinkable Sam captain.
Yeah.
And I mean, you just need a picture and you record some meowing noises from a cat. Yeah. It's not really that hard.
I'll even volunteer my own Sam for that.
Right, or even just have it where the series of ships that Sam was on in port.
I think we've got camo. We've got a camo for the Bismarck, and I think that's it.
Right,
the unsinkable Sam camo. So they could lean into that a lot.
But they could do something where it's like and again, it would be a total niche thing. But everybody remembers when we had Steven Seagal on the Missouri. Why don't you have Unsinkable Sam on each of the ships wandering around?
You have him in port. You have him in port, yes. And I think there are I don't know, Warships with Unsinkable Sam? I don't know. There's more than one. I think there's a carrier, a Bismarck, and I think there are two more, right?
Ark Royal's the carrier.
Right.
Royal's carrier.
Bismarck, and then I can't remember what the destroyer is. Is it Cossack? Yeah.
That's what they're saying. Oh, fair enough.
So we have all the ships in game already.
Right.
No, don't you have the camo for all of them?
I can't think Cossack has. Bismarck definitely has a special camo. I'm pretty sure the others don't. But I know
that I have it on the Bismarck.
Oh, they all have camos. Maybe I just only have the camo for one of them then. I know I've got the Bismarck one. But yeah, an unsinkable Sam captain would be great.
Yeah.
So yeah, they definitely. I'm definitely 100% on board with Atam there. There's way more they could do with customizations in terms of monetization rather than just loot boxes. But at least we have the odds now, I suppose. Forwards hasn't tempered their enthusiasm for adding loot boxes at all, but at least people can make more informed choices about them.
Yeah. Now, this is again, I don't go to the dev blog posts, life too little time, but they are getting back into, and I know I saw it, but they are at least on the loot boxes offering up your percentage of chance to win. Correct?
Yeah, basically they list. Like you can see in the client now, like the Black Friday ones, they will list the chances of getting each thing,
right?
From like what your chances are of getting a ship. I don't think it's like 12% to get one of the Black Friday ships, for example.
Right.
From a premium box, from a non-premium box, I think it's 0.something%.
Right.
Oh yeah. For the ones that you buy, is what I mean.
Yeah. That's at least a step up from what they were doing. I mean, it's still gambling, but
At least it's clearer now.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And I'm going to be happier if I don't see or I see less and less of the hiding one thing behind one paywall that leads you to another paywall as far as containers, particularly tech tree ships.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just oh man.
I wish they just released proper lines to grind again.
Yeah. Well, there's no money in that.
Well, I mean, it keeps people playing. I mean, it's the content that you usually expect the free player to have. They've removed that.
Yep, and excellent is correct. And then that's one of those things because for a long time on my stream, I just had a thing of I'm not spending any more money on the game. And I'd advise you not to, basically based on the whole gambling mechanic that they had in place without telling you the odds. At least now you can make an informed choice. Unfortunately, there will be people who think, oh, I have a 10% chance to win this ship. So if I buy 10 containers, I'm going to win this ship, and that's not how it works. It's 10% every roll, but that's how Vegas was built. So
there was a pretty good Reddit post where somebody just, like as a public service announcement, did the math and showed how many boxes you have, like how the odds after 10 boxes, like how are the odds, how many boxes you have to buy for 90+% odds and so on. So.
Yep. Well, that's good. And the more people who know that, the better.
Yes. The one really good deal that we talked a bit about Black Friday last week, but the one really good deal they did do was for the Dunkirk chain, where you weren't going to make your money back, but the mission you get from the Black Dunkirk, you make part of the doubloons back,
right?
And you get some premium containers in the mix as well. I actually did that, and I really lucked out because I got the Yoshino B from one of the, I think, 2 premium containers that you get as part of that chain, fairly cheap. So
that's interesting. Are they still? Because I remember back in the day, basically, it was you're going to, and obviously they set the price tag on in-game items, but back in the day, as I recall, it was you would like Christmas containers, you buy them or whatever, you would earn back at least what you put into the system in-game. Like in-game monetary value, and there's a lot of quotation marks there, but. So long as they at least, if you're willing to pay $60-$70, I'm looking at myself in the mirror right now for a ship that's digital, at the very least on the gambling mechanic, you should quote unquote break even if you don't get the ship, you should at least get in-game equivalent value. And I hope they're still doing that.
I don't think it's ever been as generous as that first year, but
yeah.
Meanwhile, we also have the packages where you can buy like all of the Black Friday ships at once, and it's hundreds of pounds / euros. Although in World of Tanks, I think I saw this on the. So I can bring it up. There's something that gets you. They're selling a package where it's like $1,000.
Oh, God!
It's like all of the tier 8 premium tanks. Plus a whole bunch of rarer tanks as well.
Wow!
It's something. It works down to something like $20 a tank, but it's like $1,000.
It's
Really?
That's you're looking at the newsprint through the microscope and going, oh hey, that's $20 a tank, and then you lift up and there's $1,000 on the table.
Do you really love the game that much?
And then there is Star Citizen, and Star Citizen is like $1,000.
Peasants.
Yeah. Yep.
That would get you, a quarter of a pixel ship.
That's right. Yeah, well. Wargaming was ahead of their time.
I don't know. Isn't like Star Citizen is so old? Wasn't Star Citizen before Warships even?
Oh yeah. They've been working on that game for forever.
I think one thing where you can see an influence on the pricing, I think, is going from World of Tanks and World of Warships to I think the pricing in War Thunder has gotten progressively more expensive, because I don't think it used to be as expensive for a lot of the premium vehicles, and it's steadily gotten to be closer and closer, if not exceeding in some cases, the prices for So clearly, it's for the audience for these kinds of games. It's the cost that some of the audience at least is willing to bear.
Oh yeah, so long as there's somebody out there with $1 in their pocket that they can squeeze that dollar out of, and I'm not gonna, what, if you want to pay, like in World of Tanks, you want to pay $1,000 for that, what, that's fine, but could you maybe consider thinking of me on Christmas as well? Because you obviously have way too much money. But yeah, that's their modus operandi. They've got to make it's free to play, but they got to keep the lights on. They got to make money somehow. And
so it's all about how they do it and
Yes.
fair it is to
I mean,
play at the end of the day.
I think we've gone from keep the lights on to keep the crystal chandeliers polished.
Well, you know,
So
it's interesting, you know, former communist company, but learning capitalism pretty damn well. Yeah. If they can do that, that's fine. Like I said, you know, Vegas was built on the same thing, so. And I love Vegas.
and what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right?
If you pay enough, yeah.
So, is there anything else? I mean, maybe we could take a couple of. It feels weirdly early to be finishing for us if we're going to finish, but maybe we could take a question or two from the chat if anyone has anything.
Sure, if there is a question.
I know Axelant's got to have a question.
We are all ears.
Yeah, come on.
I've got the attention of a cat here. Say hello, Sam. Oh, say hello. He's not a cat that likes being held very much, so I probably will pay for this later.
There you go.
But we are the community Catributor podcast for a reason.
You know, I think you guys. Okay, there we go. We got a question. Super ships. Honest thoughts. Mine. I haven't played them. Haven't played against them. I've got no input on this.
I personally don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, it's one of the ways in which they can stretch the in-game content a bit, give more stuff, and explore some of the wackier concepts, I guess. Mm-hmm. But it also has the limitation of I think they're like if they ever got into the kind of proper post-war environment of like missiles and actual proper homing torpedoes and stuff like that, they would need to do a different game for that.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, that would be like you're in this game. Oh, by the way, we're developing this other game.
I don't think they could manage to do what War Thunder has done and just kind of keep adding newer and newer stuff.
Right. No. It wouldn't work in the tier system that they have set up.
I think mechanically it wouldn't really work either very well.
I'm going to turn off my camera for a second. If you guys end the stream before I get back, but I shouldn't be that long if you field some more questions. And I know Adam has to chime in on the super ships as well. But I just wanted to say I'm not going anywhere. I've just got to go in the next room real quick.
Yeah, I mean, super ships. I'm not necessarily opposed to the idea of sort of a tier 11. If it's done right and balanced right, and this is where I'm not sure I trust wargaming. The thing is...
that's a whole other question.
The problem is there is only so much you can do at the same tier and keep it all sort of balanced, because there is only so much you can change, like how fast the ship shoots or the Alpha Striker zone. If you wanna... if you don't want any ship... every ship to be sort of the same. If you want to create different ships, then at some point you just have to accept that some of them will be more powerful, and then you need a higher tier. Instead of cramming every overpowered tier 10 into tier 10, just make them proper tier 11s. But of course, what I've seen so far of them, we will see how they go. If like something like the auto-loader or the burst fire mode on some cruisers to just utterly delete broadsides, being one shot is just never a fun thing. So I'm not sure if they're going the right way about it and if the balancing will work out. But technically, I'm not opposed to the idea.
Sam, leave the camera alone.
They balance the Yang pretty well. I mean, they're still on balancing the Yang, right? They are now the fourth change or so to the Yang after they've buffed like the torpedo reload twice or 3 times. Now they're buffing the torpedo damage. I mean,
do the guns already. Just give it back some firepower.
I mean, the Yang is not as strong as it was like 3 years ago. Or what one was it nerfed 3 years ago, 4 years ago? Like, you know, after they nerfed the Yang, it's still weaker than it was back then. So that could be like your starting point, bringing it back to what it was. But just give them half a year, and I feel like we're still gonna see torpedo adjustments.
Has anyone met the I don't think I certainly haven't seen that in game yet. The Canarius. Don't know if you've run into that. I wouldn't expect anything different from that. It's going to be pretty similar to the town class that we have in the game, I imagine.
I mean, yeah, I have no idea about the Canaries. It's also that, like, with the amount of ships there are in the game and the amount they're releasing, there's really, like, I lose track of all this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm confused myself half of the time when I look at the ships.
I can tell you this much, when we know more about Spanish ships, because they've announced a Spanish nation, which therefore means there must be more Spanish ships on the way, but we're definitely going to have Drac back for that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
New game modes with new ships. I mean, we have arms racing at the moment, and that's, I think, been fairly welcome. I don't know about the rest of you, but I've been quite enjoying playing arms race.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I have not played a lot of it, but that's just me, my time situation.
Were you already playing World of Warships when Arms Race was first introduced?
Right. Yes.
I mean, it hasn't changed overly much, I think, since then. They're just like they polished the UI a bit and adjusted the buffs a bit.
And the concept is not really majorly changed.
No, and it's as far as the different game modes, they always have to balance out the fact that each game mode is going to bleed players off of the general regular game population. So, yeah, you have to walk a fine line there where you don't introduce a game mode that basically kills your original game.
I think there is the notion at some point that it might end up just being something that happens in the random queue, as they have with Grand Battles in World of Tanks. So I, for one, would be perfectly okay with that.
Yeah, they've said that they want to bring Arms Race to random rotation. I haven't confirmed that they do it, but they said that that's their intention. So we'll see how that goes. But personally, I wouldn't be opposed to having more often like a different, also a special game mode, maybe a seasonal game mode or so on, because there are a lot of things that I don't think would take away majorly from the population, but it's just nice to have something similar, like the torpedo dodge mode from the April Fool's event a few years back.
Right.
That was such a fun mode, and they developed this game mode, and then they used it once for one, and then they threw it away. And this is perfectly fine content that's fun to play and that they could bring back, once a year for a month or two, right? They could have more often just something else to keep it fresh, give you something else. You get bored of random battles, just jump into one or two torpedo dodge battles or something like that. And it's different enough that it wouldn't lead off like all of the random population. And it's just enough,
Not to throw the art department under the bus, but bathtub mode.
Yes.
Yeah, we all want to see more bathtub mode.
I mean, I get the point by this point that the coding is moved on so far, but so redo it.
Just give us it. Just do it.
Just do it. I don't care if it's the same bathtub. Okay, just redesign it. Go in. Give me bathtub mode again.
They cannot search for special modes. Well, they have.
I tell you what. I bet you. It's completely in-house. I guarantee you, if they came out with bathtub permanent camos, people would buy those.
I go for that.
Yeah, I mean, like they've had with the Halloween events and April Fool's events, they always had special camos, right? You just rework the bathtub mode, like they used to be like really those toy ships that wouldn't fit on current ships, but they could make, just a toyish version of, or toyish skin of the regular ships and do bathtub with them and then sell them.
Yeah, and it's completely in-house. You don't have to partner with Azur Lane or whatever, That's complete. The money's completely staying inside the company. Me again, offering advice to wargaming. God damn it!
Don't worry, it's not like they're gonna take it.
I know.
Also, I guess they could always get a call up with, I don't know, somebody who makes bathtubs.
There you go.
Well, at this point, stranger things have definitely happened.
Yep. When will I start working at Wargaming? Hey, tell you what, if I can work from this little space here and I don't have to move to Austin, and start sending the checks. That is one of the weird. I understand why they moved their office out of San Francisco as far as costs, etc. But particularly in this age of COVID, having to have your employees move to the Austin office where we're doing this. There's no reason to be in an office. Just that's a whole other thing. It's just like hire your employees, let them work from home. They do the job. But yeah. Oh God, CapnHonour for next community. Okay, I tell you what. I'm going to start a charity for the amount of beer I would need to survive that. But hey, you want to do that? Again, if I can work from this little, 5 foot by 4 foot space, the bathroom's right behind me. It's so convenient. Then great, I'll do it.
You might have to upgrade for a mini fridge right next to the computer.
I was looking at one the other day. Frigidaire has a retro mini fridge that holds 6. They say cans, but it's beer. We all know they're talking beer, and it has a window on it that you can see how many you have left. And I've really seriously considered that. And it's at Target and it's only $25. So I really don't know why I'm not buying it.
I mean, $25 for a mini fridge seems like pretty cheap.
Yeah, there's but the part of that price makes me go, yeah, I'm paying blood money for this, aren't I?
I mean, the question is then again, how long will it hold? Because a fridge for $25, I wonder.
Yeah.
But then again, you've only lost $25 and it might still look cool even if it stops working.
Exactly. I can turn it in. Oh, I know. I got to reach out to Jay's 2 cents. I'm going to buy the refrigerator, and then when it breaks down, I'm going to have him turn it into a tower PC.
Sure, why not? Although I guess you might need to improve ventilation for that.
This is true, and the cooling, yes.
Well, it won't be the strangest PC build I've ever seen.
Mm-mm.
When Linus Tech Tips got his gold YouTube button, he literally turned it into a
PC. Oh, man.
Right, well, shall we wrap things up then?
Sure. I'm going to say it's been an absolute pleasure. Adam reached out to me, about a month and a half ago to do this. And unfortunately, I have this thing I have to do, which is called work. So on Fridays, I usually can't do it. But here in the States, we've got this day off, or at least a good portion of us have this day off as part of a 4-day weekend. And it has been an absolute pleasure to be hanging out with you folks.
It's been a pleasure having you.
I'll see you in a year, maybe. Pencil me in next year, this Friday.
Sure. So where can we find you when you're not hanging out with us?
As far as streaming, usually Saturdays and Sundays only, because again, I got that whole 9 to 5 thing. California time on Saturdays, roughly 11 a.m. to roughly 4 or 5 p.m. And then Sundays, 1 p.m. California time, Pacific Standard or whatever you want to call it, to 4 or 5 o'clock. And then that's the times. So my gaming time is my streaming time. I do occasionally fire up my laptop that's over here that's exceedingly old, and at work play some co-op and grinds and stuff like that on lunch. But as far as streaming and content creation, Twitch Saturdays and Sundays on West Coast time.
Okay.
So yeah, then we'll
Or down at the local tap room. Okay. You can find me there as well.
And then, probably. Maybe. Oh, you're not close.
Hey.
The second Thanksgiving dinner is almost ready.
So we have perfect timing, I guess.
Yeah.
Fine American tradition of eating too much and beating each other up in shops.
Oh, Black Friday. Oh. Thank you, Wargaming, for celebrating that as well.
So yeah, then I guess we'll wrap it up here. Thanks everyone for watching us, and see you next time.
Chin chin. Have a good one, folks.
Bye.
Bye.